All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to talk about manufacturing overseas real quick. So my name's Eric Wilkin. I own the Resplendent Crow here in St. Louis, Missouri. We are a American furniture manufacturer, and we make a ton of furniture. You can go to the resplendentcrow.com, and you can see all the furniture that we sell. We make more furniture than we paint on the vintage side. We have multiple revenue streams, and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time. It's what all these videos are about. So in this video today, we're going to talk about Tim Pool here. He has a video. We're going to watch a little bit of it. And he's going to talk about how the skateboard industry is being ruined here in America because all the manufacturing of skateboards is done over in China, right? And the interesting thing about this video is Tim Pool basically learns that it's not the materials and it's not the design and it's not all the ancillary things that go into manufacturing a product. It is literally the labor. The labor is so cheap in these foreign countries. That is what is killing American manufacturing. So let's watch this and see what Tim Pool has to say.
Sweet. I tweeted it December 29th. I said, I effing despise free trade. It extracted American jobs and gutted our culture. To which Brad responded, tell me you don't understand economics at all without telling me. To which I responded, you don't know ish about what these policies did to my industry and culture. And Brad said, let's debate it. So this actually is one of the crudest and most simplest forms of the culture versus economics debate. The point I was making was not an economic one. It was quite literally a cultural one, to which I stated. And Brad, your response was on economics, which shows the fracture between the two ideas at play. And
you say extracted jobs, though, so that touches
sure. So what this guy's saying here is super important, right? So basically what we have here is a little bit of the kind of the old school mentality. And as men, we have these fond thoughts of our grandfathers. We have these fond thoughts of our fathers teaching us things, which we're then able to carry on to our kids, right? And we're losing all of that, right? Because no one's going to say, oh, yeah, I miss the days when my dad was a software engineer. And I miss the days when, my dad was in finance. Like nobody talks about that. Like my grandpa was the greatest Verizon phone salesman. Like those aren't that great of things to talk about, right? You're not going to have fond memories of those things, right? And that is culture, right? That is this thing that we're able to look back on in our history and think, wow, I miss those days. And we're losing a lot of that today because we're outsourcing everything, okay? And I know quite a bit about this because I've been looking into having some of my furniture made in India and made in Mexico. So I'm learning a lot about this, which is why I'm doing these videos, okay? So we're going to continue on.
For sure. It extracted American jobs, which ended up gutting our culture, which it absolutely did as a fact. And there are a few industries that have been particularly destroyed, completely eradicated. And this wiped out the culture of which I've dedicated and spent my whole life a part of, which is largely skateboarding. It is dead completely. It's thriving in Asia. I'm not surprised to see that, considering the entirety of the skateboard industry was extracted to Asia. And some of the most prominent companies and biggest cultural hubs have now relocated to China and Japan instead of the United States. And it's because of free trade. And they started selling back our products to us that were originally made by Americans for dirt costs because it's made by slave labor. I get so absolutely angry about this.
All right, so what's going on here is this is 100% true, okay? The issue with America today is you don't have a lot of people making furniture today, right? You do have some custom cabinet makers for sure, and there's plenty of them, and it's a fairly large industry considering what's been done to it by foreign companies, okay? So here's what's happening, okay? When you crush the culture of manufacturing and of making things, every generation does less and less of it, right? And it's not that the industry goes away. The industry doesn't go away. What's happening is that people are going to college and are learning to be managers. The business degree is the number one degree in college to this day. It has been for, I believe, decades at this point. And what's happening is people are coming and starting companies, and instead of making stuff here in America, they're farming it out to other countries. Okay, because it's too hard to make it in America, because we're not teaching kids to do this stuff, right? Shop class is gone from high schools, right? And don't get me wrong, it's still there in some high schools, but for the most part, it's gone. It's decimated. It's like the next thing to go is going to be PE, right? PE's been decimated, okay, which is why America is so fat and unhealthy, okay? Now, as you move all of these jobs overseas and you stop doing this thing here in America, which helped to actually build the country, you're changing the culture, right? And you can think that it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. The point is it is changing, okay? And what he's saying is that these cultures, which used to be big in America, right, and Japan, are now becoming huge in these other countries where this work is done. So as Americans, at some point, we're going to have to make a choice. What is it that we want to do? Do we all want to be business owners and outsource all of the creative stuff to other countries so that we can make money, right? Or do we want to hold on to those things here in America and double down on that and build that industry here in America?
It's evil, though, because to put any industry in Asia, the word skateboard is probably kind of hard for them to say, skateboard. So it's like kind of a mean thing, but also it's true. It's like the guy who named Lululemon. He named it. He literally said, "Why'd you name Lululemon?" He was racist, right? And he said because it's hard for Asians to say because they say Lululemon. And I heard that. It's a true statement. But he did. He literally. He also said the clothes weren't for fat people. That's why it makes them thin. because if you can see your skin through the pants in the shop's not for you. But I do think it's kind of weird that we give skateboarding out there, because maybe it's just like my typical understanding, but I think of skateboarding as like an OC, white guys, sort of mentality. I mean, we have a lot of, black guys or whatever that do it now, but the Asian people, I've never seen really an Asian in Asia skateboarding. Is that even a thing?
What this guy's immediately doing is he's going to the cultural thing, right? And he's trying to talk about issues that have nothing to do with manufacturing, right? And this is part of what we're doing today. We're just taking things that used to be commonplace in America, and we're trying to denigrate them and ostracize them in a little bit of a fashion to avoid the issue, which is that American companies are shipping jobs overseas because it's too expensive to do it here, right? And we don't need to protect these industries or these cultures because we're above it, right? We're moving on to the next thing, right? And if we continue to do this old world thing here, it's going to slow our country down. It's going to slow our society down, so on and so forth. And these people, they don't understand making things. They don't understand working with their hands and being creative, getting dirty, because they've never done it. These are people that all they've done is go to college. All they've done is thought about how to do things instead of actually doing them. And that's what we like to do as craftspeople. That's what we like to do as painters, as framers, as welders. We like to get dirty. We like to go in loud places. We like to hear profanity. We like to hear dirty jokes. We like to do these things that people don't want to do. We like to be unsafe, right? That's a big one, safety culture. We like knowing that what we do is kind of manly, is gritty, right? Is something that somebody else won't do, because as people that don't go to college, those things are important to us. Whereas these people that think about things and they talk for a living, they don't actually do very much in these particular industries. They have their own thing, and they'll protect that at all costs, of course. But this, old world kind of dirty, thing that uneducated people want to do, they despise it, right? Or they think down. So Tim Pool just absolutely crushes this guy.
Bro, the best skateboarders in the world now are Asians, and
you do kickflip now, like the parents. Call me when you're professional.
Well, I'll frame this in a way for anybody who doesn't know or care about skateboarding. Let's remove that and just say American sport, which was largely popular in Southern California, and still was for a long time this mecca, as it were, of skateboarding. If you lived, like when I grew up, skateboarding has its ups and downs. It was big in like the 70s, then it kind of waned, and it came back a little bit in the 80s, then it waned, and it came back a little bit in the 90s. Completely died in the mid 90s and was resurrected in the late in 1999 to 2000 with the Tony Hawk Pro Skater game that came out, birthing this new generation and this era where you had the CKY videos became a massive success on VHS, and then you got Viva La Bam and all this Bam Margera and Jackass skateboard stuff. You had skateboarders who were millionaires. It was a multi-billion-dollar industry. And they made skateboards here. And there were skateboard shops. And then companies decided to have North American rock maple shipped to China, which is expensive, turned into skateboards for pennies on the dollar by slave labor in China, and then shipped back to the United States, which is ridiculously expensive. But because their labor costs had dropped so much and there was no tariff or penalty to doing this trade, companies stopped producing skateboards. And even to this day, as we launched Boonies HQ and we sell skateboards, we were pitched by all of these manufacturers to buy from China instead of America. And I said, why would I invest in a foreign country's industry when I'm trying to bring skateboarding back to the United States? Skateboarding is dead. As an industry, it's been completely whipped to...
Here is 100% true. Okay, and again, I know this because I'm in the process of designing furniture, going through the specifications and the engineering and everything, the processes that need to be done, and it's all being done overseas. Okay, so what he's learning here is you can actually take American products or Canadian products, depending on where they're getting their maple, and you can ship it over to China, make the product, and then ship it all the way back here to America and sell it for, in his case, about 30% more. He's going to make more profit, about 30% more profit by doing that, right? So you can send this thing, 4,000 miles across the Pacific Ocean and have it manufactured, send 4,000 miles back, sell it here in the States for 30% more profit than you would if you had it made here in America. Okay, this is the thing that is destroying American manufacturing. And what we hear in politics today is that it's, China's destroying America. China, it's this cheap Chinese stuff. China. It's not China. It is America. These are American companies. They are making their stuff overseas and then selling it back here under their brand. Okay, that's what's going on. So the issue is not, again, I'm going to say it again. The issue is not Chinese manufacturers selling cheap shit in America. It is American companies having their cheap shit made overseas, putting their name on it because it used to be made in America, and then selling it at the same price that they would have sold it if they made it here in America, but at half the cost to them. So they make more money, right? Which there's nothing wrong with that. But what Tim Pool is saying is that when you do that, you are killing the skateboarding culture. Okay. That is why American manufacturing is in decline, right? And everyone says, we're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back. But the problem, and again, I have manufactured furniture on my own in my shop here in St. Louis for almost 10 years at this point. Okay, I've done it. I haven't worked for anybody else. We found ways to make this furniture and sell it in America, employ people. We keep a 20,000 square foot shop in St. Louis, Missouri. We paint, we build, we have fabricators, we have painters, assemblers, delivery people. We have all this stuff. We've managed to do this here in America. Okay, but the culture is dying. And when politicians and news people say that we're bringing manufacturing back to America, you cannot do it when you have all of the big companies sending all that shit overseas and then bringing it back here and selling it at a huge profit. Okay, it's a major problem.
Bro, some of these pros that used to be some of the biggest names in my generation, they're Uber drivers. One guy, famously now posting videos working at Lowe's. These are professional athletes who previously had contracts with major companies, shoe deals, have been destroyed. And now what we're getting is, when you watch these skate contests, they're in Asia, they're in China. Why? Well, here's how it works. When skateboarding, let's say American sport again, you don't worry about skateboarding. When they started making skateboards, this is like, I don't know, early 60s or whatever, there's this famous Life magazine of a woman, I forget her name, doing a handstand on these little oval-shaped boards. They have clay wheels. Shops started to appear, started to make these boards. And it's like one person, two people. And then they would do community events. They'd say, we need to market this product to our neighbors and to our community. So they would put up flyers and they'd tell everybody, hey, come down to the park. We're going to do this skateboard thing. And parents would be like, oh, wow, let's go check out whatever this thing is. Let's go. It's Sunday in the park. And there's this very famous Life magazine where in Central Park, they have all of these people. And there's a man wearing a suit with sunglasses. And nobody knows who he is. Mysterious man. Never found him. And he's got his hands in his pockets and he's cruising down Little Hill on a skateboard. When these kids were brought to these community events, because there was marketing and promotion being done, these kids picked up skateboarding and developed this culture. They showed their friends. They told their friends. When the shop started selling more skateboards to these promotional events, they hired more locals to start manufacturing skateboards. These men would then make boards, bring them home to their kids, and thus the culture is expanding. It has waned, it has up and downs, but largely skateboarding continued to evolve and develop. And eventually we got to the point where companies figured out, we don't need to make skateboards in America anymore. We can use the shipping lanes to China. Now here's the reality. It's really expensive to do this, but Chinese slave labor is so cheap, we can get an additional $10 per board. So they come to us and they say, Tim, if you're going to sell skateboards, if you want to make your own custom decks, go with China. They're of comparable quality. And that's true. They are actually really good.
So what he's saying about the quality is 100% true. And this is the big problem today is everyone says, we're going to bring American manufacturing. American manufacturing is so much better than foreign manufacturing. They're full of shit. They are 100% full of shit. Chinese manufacturing is awesome. It's fantastic. Indian manufacturing is awesome. Vietnam manufacturing is awesome. Because the truth is making a piece of furniture isn't that difficult, right? Making products in and of themselves, it's not that difficult, right? The issue is the labor. It's not the materials. It's not the land. It's not the buildings. It's not the energy. It is literally the labor, okay? So when I make, an Athens Greek key credenza that has all this Greek key and all this brass all over it, that thing takes me a week to build if I do everything correctly, okay? I sell those things for like $7,000. Okay, that cabinet can be made over in China for probably $500, right? And the issue isn't that they're any more skilled than I am. They're plenty skilled. They might not have all the skills that I have, but they can put 10 people on it, and they can build that thing in a couple of days, probably at a cost that is just significantly less than what we could do it for here in America. Which is why we have to cater to the very affluent because they're the only ones that can afford American-made products. Okay, so what Tim Pool's talking about here is he says make it in China, right? The quality is good. You're going to save all this money. Yes, the cost to ship the material over there and ship it back is hyper expensive, but because the cost of labor is so cheap, you get to reap all the benefits. And this is what is killing America today. Nobody wants to make anything anymore. They just want to be a quote unquote business owner, right? They want to create a product. They want to make it overseas, bring it here, sell it at American prices, and then put that money in their pocket, right? And what they're doing is they're destroying the culture of America, okay? I hire people, right? And I'll tell you guys some stories real quick. I had a guy, his wife drug him into my shop years ago. And she said, my husband's a great furniture maker. You should hire him. Okay. And it's like, well, what the fuck, where the hell did this guy come from? She followed me on Instagram, followed my wife on Instagram and liked our stuff, had been following us for quite a while. They moved here from Syria. right? And so I'm like, wow, if this chick can bring her husband in here, ask for a job, like I'm going to give this guy a chance. I gave him a chance. He worked for me for about 5 years, and I couldn't pay him enough money later on, so he ended up having to go to someone else who was a much larger furniture maker, and he's doing great, and I think it's awesome. I think the world of this guy. Good for him. Okay, another guy. All right, he's a black guy. Couldn't even use a drill. Doesn't know how to do anything, right? And the reason he doesn't know how to do anything is because his dad didn't know how to do anything. Okay. And the problem here is that we have generations and generations of people that don't know how to do shit. Okay. Now, if you are lucky enough to have a grandfather who knew how to do something and then taught your dad knew how to do something, then pass those skills on down to you, you have an upper hand on things. But when we have a ton of people that weren't taught how to do anything, right, we're going to end up with a generation that doesn't know how to do anything. Okay. And that's what's happening today. We are having people that are starting companies, and instead of teaching people how to do shit here in America, they're just having it done overseas. They're getting with a bunch of engineers, right? Which I can show you guys how all this works because I'm working on it right now. Okay. They are going to hire a bunch of engineers. Engineers are going to take all those specs, all those designs, and they're going to go to China. They're going to go to India. They're going to go to Mexico. They're going to go to Vietnam. They're going to go to Egypt. All these countries that are getting really good at making furniture, and they're going to have all your shit made over there, right? So when the politician says, we're going to bring American manufacturing back, no, they're not. American manufacturing is leaving because of American business, not because of American manufacturing. American business can't make enough money to put in their white collar pockets, right? Into their shareholder pockets, into their investor pockets. That's the problem. Okay. There's plenty of people that want to make shit. The problem is that you don't have enough business people that want to make shit. They want to run companies. They don't want to make anything. Right. And so I've heard this many times, like, well, you need to work on the business, not in the business. Right. And there's an element of truth to that. But the reason you have to work on the business as opposed to in the business is because we've specialized. Everybody specializes. So there's no fucking way a furniture maker can run a company because they don't have those skills. And then when you specialize down and you just say, well, your job is just going to be to glue up doors. How the fuck can someone who only knows how to glue up doors ever learn how to build an entire cabinet or ever learn how to run an entire company? Because all they know how to do is make a door. And this is what they want to do. This is what is happening in America today. Business owners are creating jobs for people to just do one or two things, and that is it. That's all they want you to do because it's too expensive to hire someone that knows how to do a bunch of things, which is why they're sending all your jobs overseas, right? And this is a big problem. This is why American people need to be able to start more companies to compete with these large manufacturers, okay? And if you want to bring American manufacturing back to America, you need to crush the culture of sending everything overseas.
And you'll make $10 more per board. And I said, and then there will be no local events. There will be no local manufacturing shop. There will be no father showing the child what he's doing. There will be no skateboard community events around the area where they make these skateboards. There will be no factory. It'll be in China. And the Chinese workers will show their kids, and the culture will develop there. And where we are today is that in Japan and China, skateboarding is skyrocketing. Some of the best pros, they're doing reality TV shows, and the culture in the United States is dead, and they've evacuated the country. That's free trade. That is what outsourcing and free trade has done to skateboarding. It is completely dead, and there are pro skateboarders now doing Uber delivery. So that's why I say I despise free trade. And it's not the only industry this has happened to.
Don't you think it's
a bunch of cultures?
Don't you think it's slightly myopic to condemn all of free trade based on one micro niche industry and culture?
Nope. I think you are signaling out the fact that it directly affected my culture to say it's only one small thing, when in fact, I've gotten waves of comments and emails from people saying the same thing happened to my industry. It happened to snowboarding. It happened to surfing. And that's easy for me to say because they're related sports. But there's a whole bunch of other industries that have been completely destroyed by outsourcing.
The idea that Tim's essentially presenting that it's cheaper for a company to go overseas, build a factory, and have their products made there because there are no, and this is something that should fall right in your wheelhouse. There are no labor laws. There's no minimum wage. There's no unions. It's cheaper for a company to build a plant in China where they can hire essentially slave labor or people for pennies as opposed to dollars and ship all the raw materials they need to China, have it built in China, and then ship it back. That's something that's uncontroversial to talk about. That is absolutely something that's happened over the past 30, 40 years. It's not some secret. Everybody's kind of aware of it. And a big part of the reason why the United States is in the position that it's in with jobs and with not having good jobs for people is because the government here and unions and labor laws here and unions have made the made producing things here super, super hard. Tim was talking just last night.
So this is 100% true. Okay, and this is Phil. He's the lead singer of the band All That Remains, if you're into metal music. And I don't know much about him as a person, but what he's saying here is so true. The reason, or one of the reasons, that it's difficult to do things here in America is because of all the laws. Okay, and what's happening, and pay attention to this. This is super important, and not enough people understand how this works. Is large corporations are the people that are paying your politicians to bring in the laws or to write the laws that make it hard for small manufacturers like myself to compete. Okay. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to give you some examples. Okay. So I paint a ton of furniture. Like I don't know, I probably paint anywhere from 700 to 1,000 pieces a year of furniture. Okay. I have to have paint waste reclamation. Okay. I have to have all these things. Okay. I have to have a halon system in my spray booth. Okay. I have to have the correct power codes, in order to run the motors, right? I have to have permits pulled if I want to wire up anything in my facility. Okay. I have to pay city taxes, county taxes, state taxes, federal taxes. Okay. I have to have my fire extinguisher certified every other year. Okay. I have to pay somebody to do this. Okay. I have to make sure that my facility is OSHA compliant. Okay. I have to make sure that my facility is EPA compliant. Okay. Then I have to make sure that it's all local compliant, state compliant, county compliant. All of these things go into keeping a facility. All right. Here's another thing. Okay. All of those laws don't apply overseas. Okay. They have their own versions of them, but they don't cost nearly as much as we do. And you're crazy if you think that they are going to keep these companies overseas from producing these goods unless they follow the same laws that we have here in America. They don't do that. It's not going to happen. Okay. Now let's talk about transportation law here in America, right? And again, I know this because I have my own transportation guys. Now, what happens is a driver can only drive for 10 hours at a time, okay? And some of you are saying, oh, why would you want to drive more than 10 hours? Because this is fucking America. We can do whatever we want, but you have some bureaucrat that is saying, well, we know that statistically speaking, some geek told us that, you can only drive this much time because you're going to be tired and most people can't do this. And you see where this goes, okay? This means that everybody has to be a bitch. Everyone has to work like everybody else because you can't have exceptions to the rules because that would mean that you have some kind of advantage over somebody. You're better than somebody else. When the truth is that we're all better than somebody else at something, okay? But we have laws that state that we can't do these things, okay? Now, every road in America has certifications for the concrete that's on them or the asphalt that is on them, right? Every road has to be laid by a certain type of contractor that has to follow codes and regulations. And these are called CFRs, okay? These Code of Federal Regulations. We have this for everything, okay? And anyway, everything that we do has a series of regulations, has a series of codes, whether the federal, state, county, whatever. All of these have to be followed for everything in America. They do not have to be followed overseas, okay? And the larger manufacturer you are, the less of those codes and regulations you have to follow if your stuff is made overseas. And this is what this guy is talking about. He starts to talk about the laws and regulations to hire somebody in America, which is fucking ridiculous. Okay. The amount of rules that we have to follow here in America to hire people makes it difficult to hire people, which should be crazy. I should be able to go hire anybody at any wage, any time of the day, and ask any questions that I want. Okay. Legally, you cannot do any of these things, right? These laws and rules that we have here in America do not apply overseas, right? Some of you are saying, well, we want to be better, okay? The we want to be better mentality or the we can always do better, I love that one, is what is crushing us, okay? It is crushing our country and making us anti-competitive unless you are wealthy enough to pay to have your manufacturing done overseas or you're wealthy enough to pay someone to make something here in America, okay? And if we only rely on making things here in America for the wealthy, the bottom half of America aren't going to be able to afford shit, which is what you're seeing today right now, okay? They want AI to do everything so that basically the people that are too dumb to do smart jobs aren't going to have anything to do, okay? Because unless you want to move to China and go work over in China, or you want to move over to Egypt and go work in Egypt, right, where you can still do this dumb work that I do, right, as an American manufacturer here, it's going to be a real problem. So what he's saying here is really important.
Difficulties that he's facing with the state of West Virginia with
Screw West Virginia. Well, honestly, I'm going to second that because I'm from California and I remember all of that BS.
But the point, and you're totally right, Elijah, but the point is, regulation makes it difficult to do business. And regulation is why we had this outsourcing of jobs and send.
That's not free trade.
Pardon me?
That's a totally different question than free trade.
It's a triple hit. It is regulations slam business in the United States, which I think you probably agree with.
Yeah.
Environmental regulations restrict any certain kinds of business operations, and then they remove tariffs and restrictions on free trade, forcing companies to say, well, we have no choice. We have to manufacture or build our factories in China because we can't do them in the United States.
But I want to hear, but see, what I think is interesting about Brad, I want to hear your opinion, because all I'm getting from this, this is the first time I'm seeing this, right? So if I'm a normie and I'm like looking at this, which I am here, you see Tim Pool said, I effing despise free trade. So obviously there's like a statement about a certain, subject, right? So free trade, he doesn't like it. And he has a reason why. It extracted American jobs, it gutted our culture. So the idea is that, the economy, it's giving our jobs overseas, and essentially with that, right, you're seeing the degradation like we saw with the iron and steel mills and whatnot going on in the Midwest, where eventually if you lose these jobs, you lose blue-collar workers. If you lose that, you lose cities, you lose towns, you lose a huge part of what makes America, right, where we're just a country of people who get 4-year degrees and work, entry-level jobs typing on Excel spreadsheets. You lose a lot of what's going on. Plus, including, like he said, with the skateboards, you actually even lose quality. This actually changes entire industries, etc. And you said, tell me you don't understand economics without telling me. I don't understand economics. Tell me why he's wrong.
Well, because free trade has been one of the most profound forces for human development and poverty relief since 1980. If you look at the expansion of free trade globally, the drops in levels of absolute poverty have been astounding. Economists who study this view it as almost miraculous, the growth and decrease in human poverty and suffering we've seen, in part because of the expansion of global trade. The living standards enable.
Okay, so what this guy's saying about global trade is 100% true. Okay, now the reason that absolute poverty has gone down around the world is literally because of American exports. Okay, and not just because of us sending our business overseas, but what it's done is it has allowed American technology to go overseas. Okay, there's a reason China is the #1 purchaser of CNC equipment in the world, and it's because they make so much stuff and they do it so cheap. Okay, all of their stuff is hyper efficient over there, right? Because they can have 1,000 bodies, put it all together. They have 1,000 bodies, develop the buildings, the infrastructure, all of these things. They have, again, and it's dirt cheap. Okay. And as that has happened, as that business has come into China, the wages of the average Chinese citizen that works here has gone up. Okay. Now compare that to America, and those wages are nothing. We consider those to be slave wages. Okay. Now my wife is from India. Okay. What has happened in India is the same thing. Business has come into India, again, from America, right? And it has allowed the wages of all these people to go up over time, right? Now, there's also countries in China and India that they outsource their work to. Okay. There are countries, think about your copper. Yeah, the largest copper mine in the world is actually in Russia. If you think things like cobalt, right? We've seen the issues of cobalt in the Congo. Okay, countries like China are sending that work to the Congo, right, where they have all these rare earths and all these things like that, and these people are literally digging for this stuff by hand, using rudimentary caveman tools to do this work. They're making almost nothing. Okay, so this is a problem throughout the country, but the overall wages have gone up in these places, whether they're slave wages, whether they're digging with their hands, whatever they're doing. The ultimate poverty has decreased immensely because of what America has done. But now what's happening is America is paying a massive price, right? Because this idea that the American worker can just continuously get smarter and smarter and smarter, become more specialized and more specialized and more specialized, right? That's killing the American culture. Because truth is that a lot of people don't want to do that shit, and that's all that's going to be left at this rate, right? And then AI is going to come in and it's going to crush a lot of these white collar jobs, right? So there's always going to be this need to make things, but if we don't teach people how to do this stuff, if it is not economically advantageous for a business to hire people and to teach them when they know nothing, right? We're never going to do it. We're just simply going to outsource that job, especially when all you know as a business owner is that the economics of the business are all that matters, and the culture of America means nothing.
The United States by free trade, where everyone is walking around with supercomputers in their pockets, where people have access to a life that even 50 or 100 years ago, the richest people's lives compared to the poorest people's today would you'd rather be a poor person today than the richest person than be Rockefeller. So because early 20th century, the living standards that are enabled by this are phenomenal. The improvements in human progress are miraculous, and you can't actually put that genie back in the.
What this guy's saying is this is a man who has never built anything in his entire life. And this mindset is disgusting. This idea that somebody today's life is so much better than J.D. Rockefeller. Okay, J.D. Rockefeller discovered oil, but created Standard Oil. It was the thing that literally built America. Oil is the thing that built America. Okay, this guy does not understand what it means to create something, to make something, to watch you construct something and make it, and then look at it for 50 years. This guy talks for a living. He lives on his phone. I mean, he even talks about, he basically thinks that just because we have a phone in our pocket, that everyone's lives are better today. Okay, this is the problem with culture, right? People's lives are not better today. People are on more drugs than they've ever been. I did a video yesterday about BetterHelp. You have woodworkers that are being sponsored by companies like BetterHelp, talking to people about their psychological issues, right? And the issue is because we don't do enough stuff today. We do so much of this playing on our phone and watching television, right? Watching this thing that I'm making right now. We're not working on our culture, which our culture is breaking today. It's in a lot of trouble. And people like this who think that we're all going to be super happy, living on the internet and living in VR and living, in this digital world, like it's not working. We're finding out this is not working for people. People need to go out and what they say is touch grass. People need to make things. People need to own homes and fix shit. It's really important that we do this stuff because we have to feel useful. As men, we have to do things. We have to fix things. We have to make things. We have to know that we have purpose in our life, right? For women, this is children. For men, it's making shit. And this idea that you're going to, look at internet code all day, like that's not for a lot of people.
Attempts to undo it, really, you can't undo progress. A lot of what you're mad about here is progress, not trade.
So the points that you're making are I'm 100% on board with all the stuff you're saying. That's where my libertarian foundation comes through. It is true that without that trade and markets lift people out of poverty. The reason why poverty is almost been totally wiped out globally, except for very, very few areas, is because of free trade or because of trade and markets and stuff. So, and the number of unnecessary deaths in a society goes down correspondingly with the wealth of that society. So, like, there's a meme that we talk about, like, number go up, so it's good, right? And chart go up, whatever. And that's a meme, and it's
there's also truth to it.
Exactly. That there is a kernel of truth, and maybe even more than a kernel of truth, that rich societies do not have as much unnecessary death as poor societies, and they don't have as much unnecessary violence. They're always more peaceful. They're more collaborative societies. You end up with a better result when you're dealing with rich societies. And I'm sure that there are any number of ways that you can dissect these things, but the idea that having a rich society is not preferable to having a poor society, that's just not right.
Thanks for watching this clip from the.
Hope you guys like this video. It's I think it's very cool to see that there's somebody who doesn't do what we do as furniture makers, as tradespeople, understand what is going on in America today with manufacturers, right, and with working with your hands. Okay, so Tim Pool, if you don't know this guy, he was a reporter, right? He did a lot of reporting. He built this news network up, right? And so Tim Pool is now I believe he's one of the most prominent people on YouTube and on the internet talking about news and events. And he has a very famous interview that he does with this demon named Vijaya Gadde, who was basically the head at Twitter before it was bought by X. He did an interview with Jack Dorsey, who was the owner of Twitter at the time. And he basically did this on Joe Rogan, and all these guys talked about what was going on Twitter. And this really blew up Tim Pool's views and his whole image and his whole company, because he was the guy that basically pointed out what was going on Twitter and did it with the people in the room at the time. It was a very famous interview. You should watch it. Anyway, but these are people that don't manufacture things physically, and they're starting to understand these things. Okay, Tim Pool is like I said, he's a journalist. Phil Labonte, who's the lead singer of the band All That Remains, this guy, when he goes and produces a song, either he gets a response that people like that song and he makes money, or he produces shit that bombs and nobody buys his money, right? So this is the guy who has to make something that sells, right? He has to find guitar players, drummers, bass players, all these kind of things to put this music together so that he can make something that will actually sell, right? And his industry, the music industry, has also been decimated. Okay, and then you have this kid who's a talker, which I don't know much about, this Brad something guy, but he's never made anything. He doesn't know anything about manufacturing, doesn't know anything about how the real world works. Okay, which is fine. Those people have a place and they're super important. Okay, but these people are starting to understand what is going on with all the regulation, all the laws, I mean, we can do a video on finance. Finance is a big thing too. The difference between getting money as a large company and getting money as a small company. It's a major, major problem. Okay. So I hope you like this video. This content's super relevant. Again, I own a manufacturing company here in St. Louis. We do, we do millions of dollars in revenue. We manufacture all kinds of things. We manufacture hardware overseas. We manufacture high-end furniture here in America. We paint people's furniture. We sell vintage furniture. It's a fantastic business. It's extremely hard though. Okay. Making stuff in America is extremely difficult. And that's the point of all my videos, is to show everyone not only how to make things, but the difficulty in making things, to talk about the business side, to talk about how you as Joe Blow at home can watch this content and get an idea of what it actually takes to run a company. Okay. When I talk about all these YouTube woodworkers basically being posers, the reason I'm doing that is because I'm showing you that they are doing what everybody else is doing. They don't want to do the work of manufacturing furniture and trying to sell it because it's extremely difficult. So they make one piece of furniture, they make a bunch of videos, they make some drawings, they go out and get some sponsors, right? And those sponsors give them money so they continue to make furniture, right? Which is super entertaining, but it's not helping your culture. It's not helping the people that need to learn how to make things and learn the reality of making shit in America, right? Because we got too many people that are thinking they can make stuff. They go put it out on Facebook Marketplace and then they wonder why they're broke, why no one's buying their shit, why they can't make any money doing this stuff. Okay. These people on YouTube aren't talking about that side of it. Okay. They're just telling you, they're showing you all the cool shit that they make, and they got millions of views, making some stupid, whatever coffee bar or whatever the hell it is that they're making. Like, no one's making money with that shit. Okay. So I'm making all this content for people to understand how things really work. So like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And again, I hope everyone has a great weekend. And I saw this video and I just thought, wow, this is really cool. So I hope everyone watches this, and good luck to everyone.